Hey, David McGuffin here. Welcome to this special edition of Travel Talk Tuesday. It is the 25th of February, 2025. So you can see the context of my screen tonight says travel tips, favorite destinations, and lessons learned from 48 years on the road. I'm live in Jacksonville, Florida, and near a small little town called Middleburg, Florida. Charlotte and I, my wife Charlotte and I, have had this business since 2001, and we certainly enjoy showing people just like you around all over Europe. I got my start traveling in 1977 when I was in the junior college here in Jacksonville. I was in a choir called the Florida Junior College Chorale, and my choir director was innovative in the day and took his choirs on trips to Europe every couple of years. I happened to be there in the year where we went to the Holy Land in Palestine for 1 week. We visited Greece for 1 week, and we visited Italy for 1 week. And coming from a guy who had really never left the southeastern United States, that was pretty dang amazing. We flew from Jacksonville to New York City. I looked out of the plane and saw the statue down there in the harbor, Statue of Liberty down there in the harbor. We boarded an Alitalia flight and flew to Rome and then transferred immediately to Greece from there. And I woke up the next morning in Athens, Greece, in a place that I'd never heard of outside of my Sunday school lessons, basically. And so from that point on, I fell in love with traveling. I fell in love with music, and I fell in love with teaching. And so all three of those things kind of melded together into my life right now. This is a picture of me and my friends at the Colosseum in Rome in 1977. I guess you could pick me out. I'm that guy with the yellow shirt there on the upper right-hand corner. And then here I am in Venice, Italy, a few days later. I'm there feeding the pigeons, which aren't there too much any longer because they're given birth control in their seeds they have, and you get fined €200 for feeding pigeons nowadays. But back in the day, you could. And I can't even believe I did that because pigeons are nothing but flying rats, I think, you know. Here we are at St. Peter's Cathedral, and you'll see some more pictures of St. Peter's Cathedral pop up later on this presentation. But there we are, and that's my whole group, the Florida Junior College Chorale, with the director, Don Thompson. Later on, I became a band director. I taught all levels of band from 6th grade to 12th grade. In 2005, I started, early on, I started taking my students on trips to Europe. And we performed in Paris with jazz bands and Switzerland and all over Europe. And later on in 2005, I took my high school marching band to Dublin to march in the St. Patrick's Day Parade. And I've been taking student trips ever since. Had such a great time to do that. In March of 2001, I started exploring Europe officially and incorporated here in Florida. And we went out in March of 2001 on our very first tour. I called it England in the Countryside. And we had a great time, a great group of about 20 or so people. Everybody knew me, so I advertised word of mouth, and we went on a spring break. But we showed up in England during three terrible events that were happening. First of all, it was snowing like crazy in London in the countryside. And so we had some trouble getting around with our bus. Secondly, we were there during the hoof and mouth disease, which meant that all the livestock was being put away and that we could not go into fields or anything. And so we went to Stonehenge and we just had to drive by Stonehenge because we couldn't get out and look at it. And then on top of all of that was the mad cow outbreak, mad cow disease outbreak, which is if you were eating meat from a cow, supposedly there was this something that would get in your brain and come back and haunt you 20 years later. So maybe that's what's wrong with me. I don't know. But we all survived, made it back home. And believe it or not, the next summer in 2022 or 2002, we struck off on a whole summer of tours all over Europe. So I tell people that are listening to me in the audience, well, stay here and listen to me. By the way, at these presentations, I have about 30 minutes to do all this. So it's very nice for me to get to elaborate a little bit. I'm probably elaborating way too much. and not talking quite so fast as I would on these travel shows. But why stay here and listen to me? Well, here's a little thing. These are a bunch of groups, people just like you, that trust me and my other tour guide friends to lead them around Europe, to see the sights and to experience everything that we do. I've spent, like I said, 189 days a year in Europe last year, and these are just some of the groups that we traveled with. There's the Dublin, Ireland there, the London Eye. This is a castle in Wales, a waterfall in the Black Forest. Packing light groups, having a wonderful time in a beer garden in Salzburg, a restaurant in Paris, another Paris scene, cooking in the villa in Tuscany, wine tasting in Tuscany. And this is my friends, the La Rosa family in Chianti Classico area, where we visit this town called Greve. So we get around with a lot of people all over Europe. So what I'm going to talk about today are travel hints, tips, and suggestions to help you travel smarter, lighter, safer, and more comfortable in 2025. I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about some of my choice Exploring Europe tours and give you suggestions to help you travel on your own if you choose to do so. At Exploring Europe, we have these 5 goals in mind. I offer free travel information and advice all over Europe. That's my specialty. So if you got a question, feel free to get in touch with me and ask me about that. We do small group guided tours all over Europe, groups of 6 to 18 people. We do private and custom tours like those bands and stuff all over Europe. We do, that would be families could travel with us too. There's several families this year who've asked us to design tours for them all over Europe. So we do that. And we do educational and student tours. And there's an archive of Travel Talk Tuesday videos on my website where during the pandemic, we couldn't travel anywhere. So we did just this, just like this, standing here, chatting and talking about our favorite destinations. We began with the meetings on Zoom, and we had a lot of encounters with one another, and we're able to do that. And then later on, we developed into the webinar series like we're doing now. But those archives are there with davidmcguffin.com/TTT, over 300 hours of content, most of it video of various destinations all over Europe. So I got 15 travel tips that I'm going to cover here in the next few minutes. My first one is use that mobile phone that you have or some device that you carry around in your pocket as an aid to help you remember things and to keep you on schedule and everything else. I say, for example, here we are. This is a little placard out in the middle of nowhere in the middle of Provence, France. And it's talking about the Pont Julian, the Julian Bridge built by the Emperor Julius Caesar back in the 1st century AD. And this bridge was built over a river right there in France. So I saw that. I took a picture of that little placard that's out there. And then right there, tilted my camera up and took a picture of the bridge. So right there, I have the history of the Julian Bridge and also an image of the bridge as well. I do that in museums all over the place as well. Take a picture of the little placard that says who painted it, who painted this piece of work, when it was done, and what's significant about it. And then take a picture of the image of the piece of art. You can duplicate that everywhere. Take a picture of your schedule for the day. You know, your tour guide may hold up and say, okay, tomorrow we're meeting at 9 o'clock to leave. And just snap a screenshot of that or take a picture of an actual physical piece of paper so you know what's going on. So use that mobile device to help you recall what's going on or what you've seen and done. Travel tip 2 is you got to have a passport to leave the country. And with that passport, it gains you access to many, many more countries all over the world. There are many countries that you can go into that as American citizens, we do not have to have any particular type of visa to go in. But without your passport being valid, you cannot go anywhere. You cannot even leave your hometown airport. So number 1, it must be signed. And The other thing is that your passport must be valid for at least 6 months from the time you return back from your scheduled trip abroad. So if your trip is let's say July 1st and you're coming back home on the 4th of July, then your passport, I guess, needs to be valid until January the 4th or so. So 6 months beyond. So many people don't know that, but keep that in mind. Sign your passport and make sure it is valid for 6 months beyond your travel period. The Department of State in the United States has just implemented a new procedure where if you have a current passport, you can renew it online. And I actually have personal experience, a friend of mine who did this. They renewed it online, and within 1 week, their new passport showed up at the post office and in their mailbox. So that is a wonderful, great improvement on that has not been happening in the past. I put these QR codes on a lot of the screens. Feel free to snap them. And again, we're going to post this on my website, davidmcguffin.com, and also on my Facebook. It's Exploring Europe with David McGuffin Facebook page as well. So you'll have this as a resource if you need it. Travel tip number 3. The UK and the European Union are in the process of basically going to charge us a toll, a fee, to get into their country beginning this year. And as a matter of fact, the UK, which their program is called the ETA, the Electronic Travel Authorization Visa, is an app that you download onto your mobile device or go onto the computer. You fill out a lot of questions, not too much. All you need really is your passport. Take a photo of your passport and pay about $12, 10 pounds. And then you have a visa waiver that is attached to your passport so that when you enter the United Kingdom, whether it be in Northern Ireland or Wales or Scotland or in England, then the gentleman at the passport control will see that and send you on through. If you don't have that, then it's going to be a lot of problems, a lot of red tape. You're not going to be able to get into the country. This went into effect the 1st of January, and you need to have that if you're going anywhere near, even stepping your foot into the United Kingdom in an airport, beginning well now, and keep on going. So take a picture of this, look at it. That QR code takes you to my website and talks about that. The same sort of program is going to be enacted into the European Union, but because there are 20 or 26 countries and more that are a part of the European Union, you maybe can imagine that they're having difficulty getting all their acts together to make it work. So far, that's not in the work. It's in the works, but it's not activated, but it will. And it's called the ETIAS, the European Travel Information and Authorization System. Again, it will be an online app that you will fill out, pay a fee, and then you'll have this visa waiver for you as an American citizen to enter in. So keep your eyes and ears open for those two functions and two new things that are new for us traveling. I've got the UK. It only took me, it took me less than 30 minutes to do everything. And then with 2 minutes of paying my fee and submitting the application, my visa waiver came back. So it's very, very easy and very quickly. Hey, at Exploring Europe, we have 29 different tour routes all over Europe, visiting 18 countries in Europe during 2025 and 2026. That's a map of everywhere we go in Europe, ranging from the very tip of Scotland all the way down to the tip of Greece and most everywhere in between. Tonight, unadvertised Travel Talk Tuesday special of anything that I'm talking about, $100 to $150 off any new enrollment for any tour that I'm talking about. And I'll kind of show you as we go along. There'll be a little red box up there that talks about that. That's valid for 1 week. So it's valid until next Tuesday, the 30th of this month at 7 o'clock. So anything I talk about it, you can go online, David McGuffin, sign up, and just give us an email or a call and say, hey, I listened to Travel Talk Tuesday, and please apply those discounts to our tours. The first ones I want to talk to you about are some things that we have just maybe 1 or 2 spaces available on these tours coming up in the next few months. My Tuscan Villa vacation fills up every year, and we only have this entire year, we only have 1 room available. This particular tour is May 14 to 23. Save $150 off of that. We visit these areas. It starts in Florence for 1 night. It visits Tuscany for 7 nights. And then we go back to Florence for 1 night. And then there's an option to visit Rome as well. We visit Florence, the American Cemetery in Florence. This is Villa Marcampo. Claudia and Ivana own this villa. Perfect time to have snacks. This is Volterra, Pisa, Siena, the cathedral in Siena, the winery there at Marcampo, which where we're staying. Just a great time, 7 nights to relax and enjoy Tuscany. We take day trips every day to visit the little towns around. It's a wonderful experience. And like I say, we've got 1 room left there beginning the 14th of March. Speaking of Italy, travel tip number 4 there is try to avoid the busy summer season. You'll probably notice if you look at my tours that we're not doing a whole lot at the end, middle to the end of June, July, and August. Many Europeans have vacation that time, and also it's just crowded and it's hot most of the time. So we try to avoid that, but if you have to go, try to stay north of the Alps, not south of the Alps. This is a group a few years back. You're right there, Leslie, by the way. This is in St. Peter's Cathedral. You can't see that we're all soaked in sweat, but we are. But that was in June, and it was very, very hot that day. And so avoid that. Instead, go to Ireland, Scotland, Wales. This is July, the same year. I left that hot Rome, and I went to there. Look at us. We're there in the most beautiful place in all of Ireland, County Kerry, just north of the Dingle Peninsula. And these guys have jackets on. It's about 65 degrees in the middle of July, and that's kind of how it is. So if you have the option to taper your, or to choose when you want to travel, do that. South of the Alps in the fall and in the spring, north of the Alps, especially in England, Scotland, and Wales, all of that, any time of the year seems pretty good. Travel tip number 5. Let me wet my whistle. Bring a portable fan. Now, I've been traveling with a fan like this for a long, long time, and it's great because it operates on USB power or battery power. This is a new model I found. Just one of our travel partners had this one with them a few months ago. And so it's available right now on Amazon. It's about 5 inches square. And just to have a little bit of breath of air blowing around in your hotel room is great. You probably know that they do have air conditioning and heat in Europe. But a lot of times it doesn't work like it does here at home, especially in the summer if you're trying to get your room to 65 and they throttle the thermometer back to 85. So having the fan and a little breath of air really does help. So get that fan carried around. You will be happy that you did. You can even pull it out when you're on the train and you're riding on the train and it's hot as heck. Get that thing and get to blowing some air on it. It'll make you a little more comfortable as well. Hey, I want to talk to you about my Best of France tour. We're doing this June 22 or June 12 to 22. It begins and ends in Paris, and we visit Burgundy, the Loire Valley, Dinan, Brittany, Mont Saint-Michel, and Normandy, and come back to Paris. Again, 150 off of that. And there's the Eiffel Tower in Paris. These are the vines, the most famous vineyards in all of France and Burgundy. Down into down kind of near between Paris and Switzerland. Of course, I love escargot. And so that just looks yummy to me. I could take my piece of bread right now and dip into that because it would be pretty dang good to do that. The Loire River Valley is full of these chateaus that the rich and famous had back in the time of Louis XIV and following. And so there's a lot of chateaus there. This is Chateau Chambord. And then we go to Mont Saint-Michel, a beautiful monastery right off the coast of Brittany and Normandy, France. And this is a place we stay there overnight, which many tourists do not do that. So we get one night here, and it's just beautiful to be in Mont Saint-Michel. Then, of course, we visit, we're in the Normandy area where the invasion on 1944 happened, what we call the D-Day beaches there. And we'll spend 2 days exploring those and looking at all of the sites around for the Allied landings during that time as we invaded the west coast of France in search of Hitler and his armies. Of course, a very poignant moment is visiting another one of the American cemeteries, probably the one that we know the most of, and that's the American Cemetery at Colleyville in Normandy in France. So that's that. We're doing that in June. If you're available to go, give us a holler, and we'd love to have you join with us and do that tour, the best of France. We also do London and Paris has become very popular, and London and Paris and Rome. I've got just one tour. We've got 4 or 5 different departures, but this one's coming up rather soon in April 21 to 29. I happen to be leading that tour, and we've got a couple of extra seats on there. We'd love to have you join us and visit London, Big Ben, the Parliament House. This is Westminster Abbey. I guess they go. And this is the Tower of London. Can you believe that? 1066, William the Conqueror built this thing right there in the middle of London. The London Eye, the big Ferris-like wheel that is there on the river. I don't even like Ferris type wheels, and I've been on this twice in my life. I've been to London probably 100 times, but I got to go up at least twice, and I had a great time. Double-decker buses are wonderful. We had to do a hop-on, hop-off city tour. This is London City, by the way, and the Docklands. We stay out here in this region because it's a little bit out of the big center of London, but it's also very easy access to get in. And we have modern access to some very large, like Hilton-esque type hotels out there that are really good for us. And of course, the Westminster Bridge and the tower. With the tower is called the Parliament Tower, but the bell up top of that tower is known as Big Ben. So that's where that word comes from. And then we hop on a train. That's 4 days in London. Hop on a train, the Channel train, and 2 hours and 2 3/4 hours, we're in the heart of Paris. We get to see the Eiffel Tower there, the Arc de Triomphe, the Louvre Museum. Maybe get a squeeze into one of these little cars to take a ride around town if you want to. Notre Dame Cathedral, that's open to the public now. So on our tours, especially in April, it'll be the first time I'll be in the newly renovated and restored Notre Dame Cathedral in April. It'll be wonderful to try that. And then we'll go up to Montmartre. This is the famous Bohemian neighborhood up there where all of the artists like Louis-Lautrec and Monet and all of them got their start in the Impressionistic era. And the Sacré-Cœur, the Sacred Heart Church up on the hill of Paris as well, the River Seine, and we'll take a cruise on that. And then that's the end of that tour in April. But our other tours continue on. If you want to go and do 4 days in Paris or 4 days in Rome after Paris, we get on a flight, a 1-hour flight down to Rome, and we have 4 days in Rome visiting the Colosseum. And that's the interior of the Colosseum, the Roman Forum there, the Trevi Fountain, the Spanish Steps. That's Charlotte 9 in front of St. Peter's. Look at there. There's hardly anybody back there. That will not happen. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that this year, but there's hardly anyone there. And then we get to visit these museums, the Vatican Museum with all the great artwork, St. Peter's Basilica. Again, wonderful food and drink along the way. This is what's known as the typewriter or the wedding cake. It's a monument to the first king, Victoria Emmanuel II, the first king of Italy. And then so we do 4 days London, 4 days of Paris, 4 days Rome, or in combination. You can jump on in Paris and just do Paris, or you can jump on in Rome and just do Rome, or any other combination on that. Travel tip number 6 is talking about the Vatican. This is a crazy year. It's 2025 and it's known as the Jubilee year. The folks at the, well, not the folks, the Pope has declared that every 25 years that it will, the Vatican and the churches in Rome will open their doors for pilgrims to come and make maybe a once in a lifetime trek there. And there are some holy doors in 5 of the important churches there in Rome, the most famous of which is St. Peter's Basilica. And those doors have been they've been bricked up for 24 years. They take the bricks down from those doors and you pass through those holy doors, making it a very holy experience, especially for those who are of the Christian faith and those who are Catholic especially. So this is going to make it very, very crowded in Rome. So I'm not saying don't go, but just plan ahead and plan on there being crowds and it taking longer and maybe rooms and everything being more expensive. Reserve your tickets and entries ahead of time, as far ahead of time as you can. The Vatican Museum is probably, and the Colosseum are probably the most extremely difficult places to get into during this time of year. And so especially with the Jubilee year coming up. So reserve early. And this is inside the Vatican Museum. The upper one there is the Belvedere torso. We don't know who that was done by, but it's a Greek torso statue, one that Michelangelo and Da Vinci looked at, very highly treasured, and modeled many of their works of art afterwards. And then also the Colosseum and the Pantheon are there in the heart of Rome as well. Travel tip number 7. Contactless payment has been the way to go, especially since the pandemic, but it is even more prevalent in Europe than it is in the United States. I went and had a haircut today and I was able to tap and pay with my watch. I went to the local barbecue joint here in Middleburg, small little podunk town. I could still tap and pay with my watch or your card. And that's the way to go with contactless payments. So make sure you have that available and activated on your mobile device, or at least have a credit card that has this little fan symbol on it so you can tap and pay, and it makes things a lot easier. Having cash and credit cards nowadays is kind of becoming a thing of the past. And so look into that and notify your banks and credit card companies that you are going to be traveling and that you can use your contactless payments. They bring this machine to your table at many restaurants. You just tap it and it pays your whole bill. If you're sharing a table with your friends and there's 4 of you there and 2 couples, you can say in your bill, let's say it's €100, you could say, mine was €60, put 60 on mine, and the other guy says mine was 40, put 40 on mine. And so that makes it very simple to do. Speaking of still dwelling on Italy here, Best of Italy is probably one of my, probably the second most popular tour that we have outside of Ireland. And so we do 13 days of Best of Italy, starting in Rome and going all the way to Milan. It visits Rome, the Cinque Terre region here. This is Volterra in Tuscany, Siena, Tuscany, Florence in Tuscany. Then we go up to Venice on the Adriatic Sea, Lake Como in the foothills of the Alps, and we end in Milan. We have 4 or 5 departures per year for that, and love to have you join on one of those tours with us. Before you go to the bank, before you go to Europe or even really travel outside of your normal spending area, make sure your bank and your credit card companies know that you will be traveling, and they can relinquish the hold on your credit cards and your debit cards in order to so you can get cash and use it that way. That's very important that you let them know that. Otherwise, you may be shut down. We've had throughout the years, people show up and try to put their debit card in the machine and get some euro out and can't because their bank says, "What are you doing? This card must be fraudulent because you're in Rome and your home's in Jacksonville." So think about that. Let your bank know. Travel tip number 9 is if you're using ATM machines in Europe to get cash out, avoid these like the plague. These ATMs that are called Euronet ATMs, they are crazy and they're all over the place. It looks very convenient and they're mostly in storefronts and everything, but they charge €2 to €6 or $2 to $6 per transaction and a 10 to 13% currency conversion fee. My bank here at home charges me 1% on anything that I bring out or spend in Europe on my card. So $100 expense is, or €100 expense is $1 basically. So that's the way to go. Avoid those Travelex, Moneybox, and CashPoint. Instead, go to a bank ATM, just like the bank ATMs that we have that are mounted on the side of a bank. And for there, you get small transaction fees and the bank exchange rate that is agreed upon, which today I think let's say the euro to the dollar exchange rate, I believe the euro was $1.05 bought €1 today. And that's what the banks would give you. Travel tip number 10. This popped up on my feed a couple of weeks ago as I was flying from Jacksonville to one of these travel shows. And it said, Spain's 3-year tourist ban has kicked in and will get even tighter in February. And so I said, wait a minute, this is crazy. So I did some research and found out that there are 94 million tourists that visited Spain last year. It's one of the most visited countries on earth. But this is not correct. Whoever published this, and it was a reputable news agency, they were talking about these Airbnbs and Vrbo are taking over so much of the housing in Spain that it's causing the Spaniards not to have anywhere to live. Therefore, those type of short-term rentals are being cracked down upon by the Spanish government. So tourists who want to use those probably won't be able to. But hotels are there and they welcome you. The tour guides are there and they welcome you. So don't believe everything you see that pops up on your feed. You may recall last year, Barcelona tourist ban. And this one thing popped up on CNN that said, look at all these Barcelonian people that they're shooting the tourists with the water guns. And that happened like on one street, one day, in 2 or 3 restaurants. And they were really just having fun and laughing about it, a bunch of young kids. But that made the news and people were asking me, oh my gosh, should we go to Barcelona? They hate tourists there. So don't believe everything you see. It's still perfectly safe and fun to travel almost anywhere in Europe. Speaking of Spain, I got a Best of Spain tour that does begin in Barcelona. It visits Barcelona. These are the beaches of Barcelona. We take a high-speed train to Madrid. Madrid's the capital of Spain. See some flamenco. Visit the cathedral there. We go to Segovia. This is an aqueduct in Segovia. We visit Toledo, one of the biggest cities. Visit these windmills of La Mancha. Go to Granada and visit the Alhambra. And then to the beaches in Nerja, down on the Mediterranean coast. We visit this town of Arcos, beautiful little hill town that only I can go to because our groups are very, very small. Big tour groups can't do it. And then we finish up in Seville, where the barber is. Ha ha. Nobody probably knows there's an opera called The Barber of Seville, right? Okay, but right next door to Spain is Portugal, and Portugal is probably one of the hottest destinations in all of Europe nowadays. As a matter of fact, Americans are getting offers to move to Portugal, get a European visa. It's cheap to retire there. There's no tax on all of that kind of stuff. but it's also a wonderful destination to visit. And but we have a tour that begins in Lisbon, the capital, and works its way north through very, very important historical sites, all the way up to the Wine Rivers Valley. So this is Lisbon right here, and this Lisbon's on three hills. An earthquake kind of created a valley in between, located on the river as well. This is Lisbon as well. The streetcars are very famous in Lisbon. This is out from Lisbon. This is the Belém Monument. Belém is the little harbor town that the discoverers like Christopher Columbus and Amerigos Vespucci all struck out from to discover the new worlds, both to the east and to the west. This is a monument of the discoveries, a monument to all of those explorers. This is Pena Palace outside of Lisbon as well. We visit Coimbra and Fatima. This is Coimbra right here. And then we get up to the Wine River Valley of the Douro River, where the famous fortified wine known as port is produced as well. So a wonderful 11-day experience there as well. We've got a couple of tours in September and October available this year. And then we've got, I think, 5 departures next year scheduled, because Portugal is becoming so prominent and important destination for us. Travel tip number 11, comprehensive insurance is very, very important to get. I would just pretty much say, don't even leave home without getting that insurance, because you never know what can happen from the time you decide you're going to go on your trip until the time you actually get on your flight to go on the trip. And especially from the time that you're in Europe or wherever and traveling around. I've got some special advice that I've picked up just in the last a few weeks at the travel shows. And it goes like this. You can divide that travel insurance up into 3 different segments. Let's say for me, most of my tours it's a $400 deposit. So I recommend that you insure $400, which maybe will cost you $8 or $10 US to insure that $400. And that ties you over. So that's insured just in case something happens between then the time you purchase your trip to the time you leave. You won't lose out on that $400. Then when you buy your flight, purchase the insurance to cover the cost of the flight. Never purchase the insurance at the end of your checkout on the airline websites. Number one, you don't even know what you're getting, because you never get to read the terms and conditions or anything else. You know, it makes it a really big sell at the end of the website by saying, hey, you can buy travel insurance for $89 to cover the cost of your trip. Well, what does that cover? You don't know. So don't buy it from them. Buy it from a reputable insurance company, a travel insurance company. And then finally, step 3 is when your final payment is due. Like for us, our payment is due 90 days before the tour begins. When the final payment is due, go ahead and buy the comprehensive travel insurance on that amount of money if you're concerned about something's going to happen between between the time that you pay your final price and you get on the plane to fly. So I recommend breaking it up in those 3 segments. Ireland is very important, and Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, we have these tours. I'm just kind of zipping right through that because those are probably some of the most popular tours that we have. I'm going to back up one thing and say we have a Taste of Ireland for 8 days that visits well, I can't even see the cursor there, but that visit the island of Ireland down here. We have the Best of Ireland that visits the island of Ireland and Northern Ireland to the north of there. And then we connect also Scotland and Wales. And so we actually have 5 different tours that kind of piggyback one upon the other. So check with me if you're interested in Ireland, Scotland, or Wales, or any combination of that. Travel tip number 12, pack light. This is my friends who traveled with me a few years back, Jim and Roberta Kelly. And this is at a train station in Venice. And Jim has this carry-on bag, zebra striped bag. And Roberta has her purse, and Jim has a small backpack. And they traveled on the Best of Italy tour what is that, 15, 16 days. That was what they had. Now, they did do some wash along the way, so they weren't stinky or anything, but they were so happy that they have won the all-time David McGuffin medal of being the lightest traveler ever, even lighter than me. So congratulations, Jim and Roberta. Bring a small carry-on backpack or small carry-on suitcase and a backpack, and you will be happy. Travel tip number 13 is wear a money belt. You see that while it's there? I got to turn on the oven over here because we're going to have some chicken parmesan here in a minute. Let me cut it on. Let's see. There, that's all I need to do. That money belt I wear all of the time I'm in Europe. It goes under my pants, and I keep in that my passport and credit cards, whatever cash that a little bit of cash that I have, my maybe insurance card, my medical card, all the ailments I have and the pills that I take and all of that stuff the older I get. And if anybody wants to steal it, they have to pull my pants off. And I've never had anybody do that. So all of that has remained safe. I've had other things that have been stolen, but definitely not my passport, my credit cards, my money, and all of those important things. So keep that money belt, wear it, keep it tucked in underneath your clothing. Travel fit number 14, tip number 14 is reserve those attractions as early as you can. Leslie has a story she could tell. I'm sure she didn't want to, but she just a moment ago booked the Eiffel Tower. And we had to book it, 60 days in advance. And she sat on the computer for an hour or so waiting for the time to show up to book the Eiffel Tower ticket in 60 days from now. Thankfully, she got some tickets for our group in April. So you guys, thank Leslie that you got tickets to go up to the Eiffel Tower. But book ahead of time if you can. Hire local guides. Up here on the top, that's inside the Vatican Museum at about 10 o'clock in the morning. Down below is the queue at 8 o'clock in the morning to get into the Vatican Museum. Those people in that queue do not have a ticket. They did not book ahead of time. Everybody in that museum had a ticket. But we try to get tickets that get us in at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning when there's fewer people in there. Same thing here. This is in Florence with Michelangelo's statue of David. A lot of people about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Here it is one day. I was the last person in the museum when it was about to close. Just 2 Davids there. One that looked a lot better than me. Skip the line. We often hear that when you book a tour. There's not really any such thing as skipping the line because you're always going to wait in line. But what you do get when you purchase a skip the line ticket is a reservation and a time to enter. And often it's the time to enter with a guide or something. But you're still going to have to go into the museum, stand in line for the security to go through that, and then wait for your entry time to get into the museum. But that's a whole heck of a lot better than waiting in this queue outside that same museum where Michelangelo's David is. And all those people do not have tickets. This guy in the green shirt that says Red Point, wait here, prenotati. That means if you have a reservation, wait here. 4 people wait here, we'll let you in 4 at a time. Show me your paper that says my entry time is at 4 o'clock, and they let you go right in. So book ahead of time and get a reservation. Hire a private local guide. This is Paula. I've known her for over 20 years. She's my friend and a fantastic local guide in Florence. It's cheap to hire a guide, and it's very well worth it because you get an insider's look at whatever museum or town we're visiting. Jackie over here, this is Jackie. She is also a friend of mine. She's our Blue Badge local guide in London, and she just does a fantastic job of taking our groups for a whole day and showing them around Westminster Abbey, the Changing the Guard, Tower of London, and more. It pays to know the locals, so book a local guides. Finally, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. Wow, that's a great place to go. We're going in September. It culminates in Munich with Oktoberfest, but it visits the Alps in Switzerland, Neuschwanstein Castle. This little town of Rotenburg, Germany, Dachau concentration camp, and of course, Munich. It's all there. And if you can't get enough of Germany, Austria, and all of that cheer, go with us in December to the Christmas market tours. We have 3 different Christmas market tours that go on. All of them are 8 days, Sunday to Sunday. They're all, you can't see the price probably, they're $37.89, I believe is what it is. This one visits Salzburg, and it begins and ends in Munich and visits Salzburg. So we're in Germany and Austria. This one is 3 countries: France and Strasbourg, France. We visit Italy and Bolzano, and then up into Munich and hit some of the area of Bavaria as well. And then finally, we have what I used to call the Christmas markets of Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe is now no longer, it's all Central Europe, unless you're much further than Bulgaria and that area. So we're calling it the Central European Christmas markets, beginning in Munich and ending in Budapest and hitting Prague, Vienna, Bratislava, and Budapest. And I'm almost finished. Bear with me 3 minutes, and I'll be done. We've decided to explore beyond Europe. There's so many of you that have traveled with us all over Europe. You were saying, hey, David, when are you going to go somewhere else? When are you going to go somewhere else? And I keep saying, I only go to Europe. I don't know anywhere else. Well, because we go to these travel shows, we've made good friends with people that do tours in other countries and other continents. So we've come across some very good friends that we've made that are in Tanzania, and so in Africa. So we have designed a tour that visits Tanzania and does a safari in the Serengeti. And we'll do that in August of this year, and it's totally sold out. And then we again next year as well. So look on that, David McGuffin's Exploring Beyond Europe. And then let me jump to this slide. And then we also have Exploring Beyond Europe, brand new, Ecuador and the Galapagos. And so that's just hot off the press. As a matter of fact, I put updated information on the website just an hour before we did this Travel Talk Tuesday. It's there, and there's 14 spots left, and I'm going to be promoting that big time next week. But if you're interested and want to do it, get in touch with me. The prices are on there, very, very affordable prices for what you get. And so the first 14 people that sign up are the 14 people that go. There is no more seats because we're renting out that entire boat, catamaran boat there in the Galapagos. So that's it. So we would love to have you join us there. Let me back up. Next week, I'm going to do Travel Talk Tuesday as well. And we're going to talk about those 2 tours outside of Europe, along with my Balkans, Croatia, Slovenia, all of those types of countries that are on the Adriatic coast, stretching down to Greece. And so join me next week where I promote those, because we've really gone to explore and to experience those this last year, and are having a great time showing people around that part of the world. It's kind of like Italy and Tuscany used to be 25, 30 years ago. So a great experience to do that. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. And with that said, travel tip 15 is just get up and go. We go 29 different routes and 29 countries, including the countries outside of Europe. So think about it. Join us on a trip. Thank you guys for being a part of Travel Talk Tuesday tonight. This is my catalog. If you want to get a physical copy of a catalog, scan that QR code or visit davidmcguffin.com contact, and we'll mail you a catalog. And there's my website, davidmcguffin.com. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me on Travel Talk Tuesday. We'll catch you next week for the final special edition from this year. Until then, your adventure starts here with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe.